article in the New York Times, how the last 8 years made young women more liberal. Well, they're not more liberal, they're more left, but it's okay. This is very revealing. In 2001, young men and women had similar political ideologies. This is what I mean. Think about it. The changes that are wrought, the challenge to everything that people held beautiful about the country, it's just been shattered. And so the ultimate statement of shattering is that a society does not reproduce. The greatest number of people living alone by percentage in the United States in its history. The greatest percentage of people who by the age of 40 have never married in American history. The greatest percentage of depressed young women in American history since such things were tallied. And who wrought these changes? Conservatives? It's a rhetorical question. In 2001, young men and women had similar political ideologies. Women were more likely to be liberal than men, but just by a little. And through George W. Bush's and Barack Obama's presidencies, that didn't change much. Then around 2016, something shifted. Women ages 18 to 29 became significantly more liberal than the previous generation of young women. Today, around 40% identify as liberal compared with just 19% who say they're conservative. The views of young men, who are more likely to be conservative than liberal, have changed little. Young women are much more liberal than women 30 and up. 67% of women 18 to 29 supported Vice President Kamala Harris in New York Times Siena College poll in 6 swing states last month. It's again 60% compared with 40% of young men. 53% of young men in those cases backed Donald Trump compared to 29% of young women. The rise in liberal identification suggests that for a generation of women who were raised being told they could do anything, the triple punch of Hillary Clinton's loss to Mr. Trump, the hashtag #MeToo movement, and the overturning of Roe v. Wade forcefully shaped their political views. I have more to read and I have a lot more to say. This, for me, this goes under the heading of not only left-wing influence, and it is much more likely that women will identify with the left. It's always been true. The left is the feminine to the conservative masculine, and I can define that. The feminine is nurturing, emotional and nurturing. But the more government nurtures, the more ultimately it destroys the society. In England, they tried to nurture society with the National Health Service. It is now a calamity. It is a medical calamity. No one has ever answered my question. Doesn't mean there isn't. I would like to know what the answer is, but no one has ever answered my question that I posed for very many years. If the government should be the provider, the single provider of medical care, why shouldn't it be the single provider of food? Why is medical care more important that it be government doled than food? You can't live without food after a number of days. Most people live without medical care for half a century. How many people go to a hospital in the first 50 years of their life? And anything else basically they could afford. Young women, this is an amazing thing. They were shattered. Do you hear this? by the loss of Hillary Clinton, they had come to expect some sort of feminine, well, no, it's a dirty word, female utopia. And the loss by a woman running for president, I guess the first woman, and she didn't win, wow, I'm going to go much more leftward. You realize what a puerile mind that is? Puerile means childish. And the New York Times piece, which attempts at objectivity, which makes it all the more damning, speaks about how young women in America are so almost shattered by the fact that we have not had a female president. They want to look like the president. There's a pure leftist, narcissistic idiocy. We need people in positions of power who look like us. Why? I'm curious, why? Where else in life do we need people who look like us? Do we need people who look like us on a baseball team? Do we need people who look like us in the cockpit of the airplane that flies us? I don't understand that. I've never related to it. You have to look like me and then I take you more seriously? You know how childish that is? You know how primitive, morally primitive that is? So this is the triple punch of Hillary Clinton's loss to Mr. Trump. The Me Too movement. Why does the Me Too movement move you to vote for Kamala Harris? So let me figure this out. The Me Too movement is about women being harassed. So why is that a left-right issue? Maybe, I don't know, the left will be in your corner more? The Me Too movement. Feminism has so weakened women, it is almost pathetic. The whole it's so interesting that I'm going to be flying today, as an example. I fly every week on average. And you've gotten this where TSA might check you because you buzzed something or whatever. May I touch your shoulder? May you touch my shoulder? Who is sensitive about somebody touching their shoulder?